Welcome, Walnut. I'm Lara, but you can call me Laz, your host for Walnut Wednesday. This is your reminder to be brave, be yourself, and know that you can make the world a better place just by what you decide today. Here, I'm going to share my weekly walnuttings with you on a Wednesday. Hello, Walnut. It is me, Laz, here for another episode of Walnut Wednesday. And this week is very exciting and delicious because I have my friend and friend in real life and her cat, Kerryn. Hello, welcome.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you for visiting us. How's your day going? Let's start off with that.
My day is going great. It's sunny. I get to chat with some of my favorite people. I had a massage. It's all going great.
Delish and divine. Well, so Walnut, Kerryn and I, I think we met through mutual friends online, and then I was lucky enough to do oracle card readings, little mini ones in Kerryn's summit. Was that this year or last year now? Gosh, I can't remember.
It was this year, but I keep asking the same thing. I'm like, it was February like this year, but that's because we grow on a different timeline to reality. So it does seem like it could have been last year, but it was this year.
It feels so long ago. So we've been friends for a little while now, since this year. Do you want to sort of introduce yourself, Kerryn, and let the Walnuts know who you are?
Yes, hello. I am Kerryn. I am from Wellington, New Zealand, and Laz is like in the same city as me, and it's amazing. I am an intuitive success coach, and I support women mostly, but also like dads and like humans to step into self-leadership. Intuitive self-leadership, which is really about supporting and guiding people back to what are their desires, not what other people want from them or what they feel they should do. And what does their intuition say as far as like what's fun, and stepping back into their power to rewrite the rules, because the rules we've been given growing up are a bit crap, and we can make new ones, and living our best fun, most walnutty lives. Really. I have a husband, I have 2 small children, and a cat that if you're watching on video you saw just a minute ago. My kids are 6 and 3, and I started my business when I was on maternity leave with my daughter. So I have done the like nap time hustle mum juggle thing. That's me right now. We can talk about me in all different times too, but that's me right now.
Oh, I love it. And I'm actually very intrigued about the maternity leave starting a business thing, just on a personal question level. But before we get to that, let's talk about, because Walnut Wednesday is all about showcasing like having courage and being brave and stuff, where you are sitting now and how and who you are and who you embody like now, where, if you had to summarize it, can you give us a little bit of like how you got here, how you got to being this version of Kerryn right now? Because I imagine it would have been lots of trials and tribulations along the way, particularly how you mentioned, all the intuition things, the family things, and juggling all the things together as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I got taught to be a walnut from a young age when my parents told me that I could do anything, and I believed them.
I love that. And so that's all I do every day.
So a lot, I mean, now like along the way there's definitely like I feel like pivotal moments where I was like, oh, there's a whole lot of layers of learning and all sorts of things where, okay, so one of them is like I left school at 16. I got university entrance in what used to be Form 6 in my world, because I'm getting older now, and is like year 12 anyway. And I went and did my university degree to get the job, to earn the money, to make the money work for me, to get the financial freedom. And that was like the da-da-da-da-da-da path. And there was really that moment where I had to decide, did I stay and do another year of school, but that would be just for fun, which, now I do stuff like that's literally what I use to judge what to do, is like, would it be more fun to do it that way? So yeah, my heart broke for my 16-year-old self when I was revisiting that. And I'd always done a lot of fiction writing, and to this day I still continue to write a lot in different forms. And it was that moment of, putting like my writing into the space of like a hobby and to the side, and going for the IT degree that would put me down the traditional path. And so I think there's some of those moments where, of course, we're always trying to make, do the best and make the best decisions we can for ourselves. And then on reflection, we're like, oh, I remember looking at like the newsletter from the writing school that talked about travel writers on a cruise ship. And I was like, oh, that was a spark of interest that I just felt like who I was then couldn't possibly do that. And yet reflecting on it, I'm like, oh, that was a fun little spark. And it didn't happen, but it's going to happen. I'm going to cruise the world on a cruise ship at some point and write lots of different things. But I feel like we often have those little moments in our lives, like whether we can recognize and take the like walnut step, or whether it's on reflection, it becomes the lesson. So that's one of my big ones.
I love that. And you've recently like did quite a big walnutting, and with Greece, you just performed and you just had closing night, and it was so special, and you partied lots at the end, and it was so wonderful. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Kerryn? Because I feel like do you want to talk about that? But let me just talk first.
Yes, go ahead.
Classic words. No, because I feel like when you get older, like me now, I feel a bit older. That's probably one of the, like, it excited me so much when you said that you were walnutting and doing this performing stuff, because I used to be like a drama kid, and I love theatre and I love watching the theatre, but now I would absolutely shit one if I even auditioned for something, if I had to go on stage for something, like so I'd love to talk about that a little bit real quick.
Yes, let's try and make it quick. Haha. This is a whole story. Like my whole story with like auditioning for our local community theatre production of Grease, getting in, like it still blows my mind. And yes, we had closing night on the weekend. I had an all-night pass. Did I mention I have small children? So I got home at 20 minutes past 5 in the morning. The sun, like the sky was getting light. I don't know where my stamina came from, because I was drinking alcohol-free wine. And anyway, it was like, I was here for it. I didn't quite know how it all happened. But if you'd asked me, like back in February when we'd done the summit, or earlier this year, that I would have been in a local production, I would have been like, no, like I'm not someone who gets up on stage and like sings in front of people. But of course, if we don't look, and I didn't look at the whole picture, even when I was auditioning, if you just take it step by step and walnut little bit by little bit. And it's funny how the universe like gives you little stepping stones as well. It was my best friend actually who was like, hey, there's this show, do you want to audition with me? And they had dance, like they had not dance like dance auditions, but it was like the practice to learn the dance that you would do in the audition. And she was like, do you want to come with me and audition with me? And I was just like, oh, maybe, I don't know. And then a little voice was like, that could be really fun. If you're singing and dancing to Grease for 3 months, that could be really fun. And so I listened to that voice a lot more than any other voice. And the other thing I did was I was like, well, I can just go to a dance class. Like, I can do that. Like at that point, I still was like, I don't know about auditioning. What? Oh my God. But I was like, well, I can just come along to the dance class and have some fun. And if it, maybe I'll audition, but maybe not. And I just kept it really like contained, really, really small. Just, okay, what's the thing I can do? And then it was this whole weird thing that because of COVID, they didn't end up doing. Oh, one of the dance classes I was going to go to was the same time as I started bleeding on my period. And my body does not a lot, but gets busy shedding, the lining of my womb at that time. So I was like, I can't come this week. I'll go the next week, because they had one the following week. But that's when we started getting locked down a little more with COVID again. And so then they put it online. And so I'm like, well, this is even better. Like, I can learn a dance online. That sounds kind of fun. And then I kind of practiced with my friend, and then I was kind of getting into it. And then she was hassling me about auditioning, and I was like, well, maybe I could audition. And she sent me her audition information so I could be a bit more informed and feel into it a bit more. And then I was like, I know it. I'm such a fan of Grease. And I realized doing the show, I must have watched that movie a lot more than I realized.
Resonate, yeah.
When you know all of the lyrics and all of the words, and it's just all very familiar. So for me, that again made it a lot less scary, a lot more fun, and the barrier to doing it was lower. Because if it was a show that I liked but I didn't know as well, I really feel like the fear would have come in more about learning the lines or knowing what to do or any of that. Now I wouldn't have that fear. So watch the space for any things in the next couple years, gosh. And then I had to email. They'd kind of booked up the audition slots. But this whole time I was like, if it's meant to be, it's going to be. I don't have to rush. I don't need to force myself to get in touch and book in an audition before I'm comfortable and ready. And that's one of my big things is ease. No, flow over force, ease as well, but flow over force. So I never, if I feel like I'm forcing myself to do something, I stop immediately and kind of examine what's going on. And so I applied that, and I applied a lot of the thinking around manifestation and personal development and stuff to this. And so I was like, well, if it's meant to be, it's going to be. And then it got to the point where I was had the email address I needed to send to, and the day came and I'm like, yeah, I am going to email them. And then they did make spots for us to audition. And then I was like, oh crap, I'm actually auditioning for this thing now. That in and of itself was this whole journey. And I was very detached from the outcome, which if you're familiar with manifestation, you'll be familiar with that phrase, which can drive us mad when it's something we really, really want. With this, I was even standing up on stage and singing and auditioning was a huge thing, because back in school, I was in drama class, I was in choir, I was in all of that, and I did all the shows and things. But in my head, there was a bit of a hierarchy to drama class. And so I wasn't one of the leads. And so I never did a solo audition, even in school. I was always like, oh no, I'll just be in the chorus. That'll be fun. That'll be fine. And so for me, even just auditioning was very much just I don't know, reclaiming something or standing in my power for my teenage self. Oh, I know. We talk about reparenting our inner child. And then I know people have started talking about our inner teenager. And it's yeah, our teenage selves went through some stuff, man. We've got to focus on them too. And even just learning the song. So I sang Rizzo's song, which is There Are Worse Things I Could Do. And if you actually listen to the lyrics, it's a whole feminist, female reclaiming power song, man. It was a whole thing. So even just learning the song to sing for the audition, there was just some power in it. And that was going to be me auditioning was just going to be this. I made it for me. I made standing up on stage and doing it it meant something for me. And whether I got cast or not, I really wasn't bothered. And then I did my thing. And they asked me to read for Ms. Lynch, who's the English teacher, the really grumpy, patriarchal English teacher, which, anyone who knows me, I'm oh, this is hilarious. The universe has got a 6 sense of humor right here. And I read for that, and that was fine. And yeah, they ended up casting me for it. But that whole piece, I was I could not have done any of that and enjoyed it. I never felt nervous. I never felt, I would never worried about all of the normal things that people would think, you'd get stage fright, or you'd be really worried, or you'd stress. Even rehearsing the song for my audition, I again never forced it, and I would start to get antsy and I'd start to get grumpy, and then I'd be like, oh, I think that's because I've not practiced the song for a little while and the audition's coming up. So then I'd go sing my song, and then I'd feel a whole ton better, and it was like, oh, that's what was going on there. So it was a whole experience of me like embodying all of the things that I'd learned, to make it the most enjoyable thing. And that wasn't even like being in the show yet. That was just the story of like auditioning, which is just still, it was an amazing opportunity from the universe, and I was in the right place to be able to, step forward.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's totally a testament to the personal like growth that you've been going through, because to be able to do that without feeling like scarce-sided or like you're going to poo your pants before going on stage, which like I have felt multiple times in many hours of the day, but like it just goes to show that you're in proper alignment with like yourself, and you're doing it for yourself, which is also the best way to do things in life.
Yeah, absolutely. And a little part that I didn't share yet was around like, feeling the stress and the pressure. And because I knew about my human design, I have an open root center, for those of you who do know about human design. And I was hanging out with a friend close to the audition, and she has a defined root center, and even just hanging out with her, I was like starting to get all like antsy and feel the pressure and I was just like, okay, I think I'm good to go home now, I'll see you later. Like, because I was like, this isn't mine. Like when I'm by myself, or my husband, bless him, who also has a undefined root, I was like, I'm just going to go chill out with him now, because I knew it wasn't my pressure. The pressure was coming from the energy dynamic of us. It wasn't actually how I personally was feeling. So again, if I didn't have that awareness and knowledge, I would have really like added a whole lot of meaning onto feeling like that than was really true in that instance. So really interesting.
I love that. I think like you've just gone on such like a journey through all of the fun things that happen when you open like not only the woo-woo hole, but like just like the rabbit hole of like personal development. Like there's so much in there. Like what's your favorite out of like, well, what have we touched on so far? We've touched on like human design, we've touched on like going with your cycle and getting in tune with that. What's your favorite tool in the toolbox at the moment that you've used in your walnuttings and in your little bits of braves and in your little, what's the tiny things I can do for this thing?
I think for where I am right now, and something that I'm practicing doing more of right now, is really sort of connecting in with like my guides and my spirit guides, and that voice that isn't yours that kind of comes into your head. Because that's the thing that I'm practicing right now, which is really fun because it makes things really simple. Makes it really simple, because it's like, oh, the energy feels cloudy that way, let's just stop. And the reason I can do that though is because I have done all the work so far. Like I've done a lot of clearing in lots of different ways, whether that's conditioning or fears or healing or any of that, so that I can, you can sit in meditation and actually not hear anything until you get the guidance. And so that's from where I am now. But I think the thing that led me kind of into this, but also that I lean on and come back to all of the time, is like cyclical living with my menstrual cycle, with the seasons, with the moon, like all of that. Even just like I'm an enchantress now. And are you excellent? Yes, on fire. And I had my transition day yesterday or the day before from queen and from ovulation, which is when all of your hormones bottom out and you just feel grumpy and everything feels like it's wrong, and it's actually just because your hormones have changed and it's got nothing to do with you as a human being. And even that awareness, like it let me handle that completely differently. so that's something that I come back to, and I just feel like as a foundational thing as far as my energy and how I show up every day and how I allow myself to, do things when I feel like doing them, and rest when I feel like resting, without it being a self-sabotage or without it being procrastination or any of those things. Yeah, that has been huge, and I think is always the thing that I want people to know about.
I love that. And and you regularly, like on your stories and all the things, talk about where you're at and what the things are doing and things like that. I was thinking while you were talking, Kerryn, what's something that you would say to a walnut who's feeling so much like a peanut and so much like a butthole, and really like basically like they're not feeling good about life, and because you shine such a delicious light on things, but it's also very evident that you have eaten a lot of shit in your life too. It's like, but you've done that work, and so you're a really beautiful testament to showcase like what can be at the end of the road for some walnuts if you want to put in the work. So just curious, do you have a little message for a walnut who's feeling a bit peanutty today that they might need to hear?
Yeah, I think, first of all, you're allowed to feel how you feel. So if you feel a bit peanutty and you need to have a bit of a peanut day or hour or whatever,
A week, month,
a week, a month, I know, like, yeah, first of all, like you're allowed to feel how you feel. If you don't want to feel how you're feeling, that's really cool, because a wanting to feel different is a desire. And when you can tap into like, I want something to be different, then that's where things can get really exciting. Because as our favorite friend Kate Decker says, if you desire it, it is available to you. I've done a whole lot of work myself, happened around my birthday, funnily enough, to really step in and believe that and see evidence of that in my life. But like, you deserve things to be better. Like, if you want things to be different and you want things to be better, and if you want more than you have, then you're allowed. You deserve it. You don't have to change or be different or any other thing you think needs to happen first. You're just allowed to want it, and you're allowed to have it. And we can start really small. You can start wherever feels good to you also. So if it's fun for you to like dream big and like daydream and play around in a what if my life looked like this way, and it gives you good feelings, and it doesn't spiral you into, but that'll never happen, but that's so different, but that's far away. So if that starts happening, we just stop doing that. But also it can be the little things. And I've talked about this on my podcast that is yet to be released, but it's really exciting working on it. Oh, I'll let you know. And it's about the little things. So you know how you go about your day, and it's a little thing that could make you like triggers you and makes you feel like a peanut. And then the talk in your head, the bully demon, like you like to say, Liz, comes in and starts spouting all this stuff, and it just makes you all feel bad. Well, the same pattern can happen, but with good things. And so if we just have a little good thing and you go, oh, that's really nice that the top of my washing machine is all clear of clutter today, just personal example, that's really nice, I like that. And you can then spiral into a positive thing, or even just sit in like a warm fuzzy feeling for a minute. I think we underestimate the power that lots of little things can have on our experience of our day, when quite naturally every day lots of little things are spiraling to make us feel really crap.
Yeah, I
and
love
so the little things are having that much power, so the little good things can have just as much power at the very least. So I think that's a good place to start. If you're feeling peanutty today, tell your bully demon to like go hang out in a corner, send them to timeout.
Have a little time out. Yeah, I
A
think
time
that's such a
out.
beautiful thing. I can't remember who I was telling this to, but I was having like a really dumb day. This was years ago now. And then I started listening to like this walking meditation, and it was like, try to just for today, try and find the nature in every place that you are. And I was like, what the fuck? Well, I'm in such a shitty mood. I'm okay, whatever, I'll do what you're saying, but like, okay. And I ended up like walking like along the concrete, like it, in the city, right? So I'm walking to work, and in the little cracks of the concrete, I saw little bits of grass growing, and I was like, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden, like I looked up, and it was like power lines and like street and busy traffic lights and stuff, but in the distance was like mountain that I had been walking that same like route for ages, for a couple of years, and I'd never even noticed that I had hills in my background when I walked to work. Like, how beautiful is that? And it just kind of like spiraled and spiraled and spiraled. So I love that example, because we do tend to just cling on to the tiny like bullshit grumpy things to make it spiral. It's almost sometimes when you're in a bad mood, you even look for other things to add to your list of like grumpy things that have fucked you off. So that's a really beautiful thing. Thank you for sharing that.
That's okay. And I think something else on top of that as well, because people talk a lot about, just doing one thing for yourself when you're feeling grumpy or like peanutty. And this is where I talk about like the path of ease and flow, because sometimes you just don't want to, and you want to sit where you are, and you want to feel how you're feeling, and you want to watch Netflix, or you want to eat your chocolate, or you want to do whatever. And I feel like that's totally fine. But also, even if you think like, what would feel like a really easy thing that I could do, you're going to get your brain looking for the grass growing up out of the cracks of the concrete, or the mountains behind the buildings you never saw. So you don't even have to necessarily force yourself or make yourself do something different to shift your mood. Although if you feel like you can leap up and move your body, that generally works. But if you're feeling like you just kind of want to have a little like sulk, that's like, have a sulk and like send your brain off to like figure out the thing you're going to do after you've finished sulking. Because I feel like there's always something that feels like there's less resistance to doing it. And a lot of the times we focus on the bigger things, or the things that are on the other side of resistance that we have to like force ourselves to do. And there is another way where you can feel much more like drawn and pulled to doing, that takes a lot less effort and energy. And funnily enough, often still really aligns with what you like to do and will help shift you forward.
I love that. You're so wise and delicious. I love it.
Thank you.
Just before I ask you my token question that I ask every guest on the podcast, can you please tell the Walnuts where to find you if they're like sucking up this juice and are like, oh my God, give me more of Kerryn in my life? Tell us, where are the places you hang out online? How can we listen to you more? All the things.
Absolutely. You can come see me on Instagram at Kerryn Hewson. That is where I hang out, and I am on stories because I love stories, and I share beautiful words of wisdom in my posts when they come to me. And I also have a Facebook group called Experiencing Success Conversations. And that is really the purpose of having these kind of conversations, where we can sort of look at what we want to shift or change, or what we desire and what's holding us back. And it's just for people on this journey of personal growth and shifting how we think and feel, so that we can feel more successful and have a happier experience in life and create the things we do want to have. So that's another really fun place. And I share a lot of my aha moments as they happen in there, because I thought that would be fun. So there's some little hits of aha wisdom in there on a semi-regular basis.
I love that. What's an aha that you have for today, or for your most recent one?
Oh, okay. My most recent one. So I was having a conversation with someone in real life, and they made the comment like, we'll just have to agree to disagree. And it really confused me for a minute, because it was a perfectly fine conversation, but it really confused me for a minute, because I was like, but like, I don't disagree with you, and I'm not trying to get you to agree with me. And it was, I think, one of those things that's like a little bit of like an older paradigm saying, and coming from a place where like I have my own perspective, but I can also see where other people are coming from, and I can see why they have the perspectives they have, or I can see, you know, where there's conditioning, or where there's layers, or where there's, you know, there's possibly, you know, there's probably some trauma that's informing like their perspective. It's very much coming from that place of like no judgment and love, and like let's talk about things in a way where like we're not trying to get the other person to agree with us, and we're just curious and we're interested and we're exploring. And that's very much the philosophy in my Facebook group around conversations. But that was just one where I read it and I was really confused to start with. And I'm like, the energy on this is weird. Why is this weird? And it was that, I think it was because like my part in it, I mean, because what I think had really happened was that the other person I was chatting with, they'd explored the topic as far as they could in that time, because, you know, talking about different things can be really emotionally draining, and sometimes we're willing to go further with them than others, and again, that is totally fine. But yes, that was my recent aha from yesterday, where I was like, what? And I had to kind of unravel like why that just didn't feel like, why that didn't make sense to me. And it was just that thing where we're all having different experiences. Even like you and me recording this right now, I'm having a different experience to you. And if we recounted it and you just extrapolate that out to like people you work with or people going to the same event as you, we're all bringing different things in, which is beautiful. And yeah, I think we could do with coming at it with more understanding like that. But that was one from yesterday.
Oh yeah, I love it so much. And I love the sound, how your space sounds with this conversation stuff. That's actually very similar to Walnut Wednesday, about like
Yes.
sharing the vulnerable, so that it's not a thing anymore. So that actually, I'm not going to get into the deep dark levels of Walnut Wednesday, because then we'll be here for 500 hours. But however, I digress.
It's exactly that though. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, it's really beautiful, and I think it sounds like a delicious space. So I'll put all of those in the show notes, Walnut, so you can find Kerryn if you want to connect further. I also really want to touch on this starting a business on maternity leave thing.
Yes.
I was going to say let's real quick fire, but I think we're just going to have to go. We're going to have to just dive in and hear about it, because I want to know. I need the goss.
Okay. What happened? I was 8 months pregnant when I had the idea for my business. Ha ha ha. That was funny. And then the story I used to tell was that, you know, when my daughter was 6 months old, I sort of started officially my business. Well, I'd done some timelining and reflections, and I was like, actually, it was much earlier than that. And I had my mum come one day a week, and when my daughter was little, and like that's when I would take my day where I could like sit and do my businessy stuff. And then when she needed some boob feeds, I would go down the other end of the house and do that mum thing, and then I would come back again. And I did that. I had a day, and other than that, I was doing the nap time thing, which is a whole experience that any mum will tell you. There's lots I could share, and I'd like to make it like useful and reflective from my current view as well, because that was 6 years ago when I started, and I was very much going through my structure. I can be productive, I can hustle, I can work hard, I can get stuff done, I can be so efficient and effective with my time, which are all really useful and valuable things to do. But like I've said around the cyclical living, I think there's much more of like a blending now of this is my life and it includes work, compared to like this whole idea of work-life balance where there's two competing things for our time.
My gosh, I love that. That was actually the best answer to that question that I could have actually ever imagined. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah. Like honestly, that's such an example. That was delicious. Kerryn, final question of the day, which I ask everybody, but what does being a walnut mean to you?
I'm excited. Being a walnut to me is when you feel that intuitive tug of this is what you need to do next, And then you have that other feeling, which is the, oh my God. And then you do it anyway.
Oh my God. Yeah. 10
Because
out
you
of
lean
10.
in and you
Nailed
trust
it.
the intuition, and you just trust it. You trust yourself, you trust the intuition, you trust it's going to lead you to the right place, you trust you'll be supported. And I swear, as soon as you take the action, the oh my God thing goes away. And then you feel real proud of yourself.
I know. And then you're like
Outside.
looking back like, did I just do that? And then you're like, yeah. And then you're like, what?
Yeah.
I'm a badass biatch.
That is right. That is it. So
Oh,
yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for that delicious definish. And just before we shoot off, Kerryn, and you answer your phone and all the things.
Yeah.
Do you have any last points you want to raise, or a little quotation, or anything that you feel like you haven't spoken, released, voiced?
Yes. So you said yes. You said a word that brought something to my brain. So a quote for you that I say a lot is, it's not what you do, it's how you do it and how it makes you feel. Pausing for impact. Because like on the surface, we can be doing, it doesn't matter what we're doing. It's like in business or life or whatever thing we think we need to do to get success or achieve the thing we want to achieve. Like what we do doesn't matter. There's so many different ways to do it. It's how we go about doing it and how it makes us feel. And like we all know that we can do the same thing and feel different about it. So we can be really enjoying something. Like my daughter with ballet lessons, random example. She can be loving it, and then at some point she's like, it's not fun anymore. And I think it's really important to like honor that. And it's again like how we feel about doing things is creating the experience of life that we are having. So if we want to create a life that we love, it all comes back to how we feel.
Oh, I love that. I've heard the first 2/3 of that and not the how you feel at the end part. So that was actually really delicious. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yay. Okay. So I obviously got it from somewhere else and added the last bit recently.
I love
I was
it.
like, is this me? Am I repeating it from somewhere? I don't have a source. I credit whoever started, that sort of saying. But yeah, especially when it comes to like productivity and I think just pursuing success and all of that kind of stuff, like how we do things, but ultimately we're wanting to create a life that feels good. So we have to come back to how is life making us feel?
And I'm a very feeling person. I'm all about the feels, and all of us walnuts listening as well. We like to feel things a lot.
We feel a lot. Yes, just
we're feelers.
We are feelers.
No, thank you so much, Kerryn. And Walnut, thank you so much for your time. And as I said, I will put all the deets for Kerryn and connecting with her in the show notes if you want to. If you enjoyed this episode, please let us know and tag us on your story and all the things. What else do I need to say? I just really appreciate you, Walnut. I appreciate your time and for being here with us. And Kerryn, I so appreciate you. Thank you for your time and for visiting my podcast. It's been such a pleasure. You're so wonderful and delicious, and I'm so pleased you're my friend.
Oh, thank you. All of that back at ya.
Yay. All right. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.
Yay. Bye.